All right, if you hear that jaunty music, that means it's Tuesday, and that means it's time for Comic Book School Live, the show about the craft and business of making comics. I gotta lower that a little bit. My name is Buddy Scalera, and I'm joined here with Deanna DeStito. My goodness, I've said this name so many times, I get it wrong every time we're live. We got an awesome guest tonight, and we're going to be talking about something we have never talked about before, which is how to write romance comics from a well-known, well-established romance novelist and comic book writer. And you read some of her work, right?
I have.
You have. All right. So for the people who are joining us new because they just joined because they're part of the Alisa crowd, my name is Buddy Scalera. I'm a writer. I'm a publisher. I'm an editor. I've done photo reference. I've done educational materials. I've written for Marvel. I've written Richie Rich. I've done all kinds of cool stuff. If you know me, you probably also know my co-host, the Eisner Award-winning journalist from The Beat, also a Wizard alumni, and also a horror writer. So we're pretty excited because this is your jam, right, Deanna?
Yes, we were talking earlier how romance and horror, romance is my jam. Romance
is your jam. So we have two co-hosts. Everybody knows this that watches the show regularly. We have two co-hosts, and we realize that like when we have one guest and three hosts, we kind of overwhelm whoever's on. People feel like they're ganged up on. So we decided we're going to only have one co-host, and your hand couldn't go up fast enough to interview Alisa. So we're pretty excited about that. That was Crime Month. That was last month. I actually should have taken that slide down. But if you'd like to luxuriate in what Crime Month was all about, there it was, the last bunch of episodes. I do have a slide for what's coming in the next two episodes. But tonight we're going to be talking about how to write romance. And I got to tell you, it's not trivial, my friends. This is a growing category where book sales in general are crashing. Book sales in a category that Alisa Kwitney will help us to define is actually growing. Am I right, Deanna? I mean,
yeah.
Romance and all the permutations and genre mashups are actually growing. So while books in general are not doing well, this category and sector is doing exceptionally well.
Sure, definitely. And we have some good comments, by the way, so far. Let's see.
Already?
Matthew Giff, Superman and Wonder Woman. Who shipped that? And to whom do I return it to? Oh, he doesn't like that one.
Whoa, wait. Shipped? He's already diving into the vocabulary. Shipped. Yes. I love that. Shipped means relationship.
Yeah.
Relationship.
But he also follows up with, how's everyone doing tonight? Anyone watch any romance-esque movies over Valentine's? It was Valentine's this past weekend, so I'm expecting some good stories, friends.
I did. I watched Nobody Part 2, the movie Nobody 2.
No, I watched Extraction. That really isn't very romantic.
No, but neither is... Nobody 2 is actually a little bit romantic. So, and I want to know if Matthew Giff was doing it. How you doing? If it was his Joey Tribbiani version.
Yeah. Maybe. He is flirting. He's flirting via comments.
What else you got? You got anything else before I go into Alisa?
Let's see. Romance. Ooh, A. Campbell. I like this one. My romance is horrible.
Horrible. Wow, that's bad. And we can even see the guest in the green room laughing at the grammar.
Ooh, Jay. VA, romancy, beware Morning Glory milking farm. Too many YouTubers are talking about it. I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is, and I'm going to just delete that from the transcript because I'm afraid that's going to get us. That's going to get a shadow banned. By the way, that is James McGill, who just became the next contributor to my Patreon.
Oh, welcome.
His name will be in the credits. Awesome. All right. We're not going to make our guests wait any longer in the green room. So pull those comments down and let's get our guest to come in. A writer, an editor, a developmental editor, a friend of the show. Please welcome Alisa Kwitney. Alisa has been on the show at least once, maybe twice, and actually did our live show at NYCC one year and was tremendous. She was a great partner and I know her work. I remember first seeing your name in Vertigo Visions in a reprint, and then I went back and I was like, who is this person doing this art book that I wish I was editing and writing? And it was a little bit of professional jealousy. And then I discovered you on a local sci-fi show, and I'm like, I gotta find this person. And there you were. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's very nice. I know it's a little post Valentine's Day. The chocolate's a little stale.
Never.
The heart-shaped box is a little dented, but our need for romance persists.
It sure does, and our need for someone to guide us through the nuance of writing in the genre and doing genre mashups is more essential than ever. We wanted to get you on for Valentine's Day proper, but you were teaching a class, and we had already had a guest schedule. What was this class that you were teaching?
So I went to the mansion of the Mills family at Statsburg, which I guess is not called Mills Mansion, although I kept calling it that. And there was sort of a tour, and then I was leading everyone through a very scaffolded romance writing uh, scene writing workshop, and it was very inclusive. You could we didn't have any thruple options, but people could have always
Rupples.
added that on. But there were, you had your option to have a male and female set of characters, or male and male, or female and female. And it was kind of lovely in this very Gilded Age dining room to be discussing all of the options of what makes for couple chemistry.
And so you teach classes on a regular basis or just on occasion? What's your deal?
I have been teaching, you know, the teaching has been sort of ratcheting up again. For a while, I had some steady writing at Manhattanville, and before that at Fordham. And then, sort of things change, but I've been giving a lot of workshops. I think the next I'm going to be giving, I believe, 2 Titanic writing workshops in April. So sort of disaster with elements of
Can
romance.
people follow you on your socials and sign up for these things?
Hell no. Yes, they can.
No. Yes. It's a good thing that we have all your socials, and at the
I'm
bottom,
trying to be hard to get. I wanna create a little sense of conflict and desire, but no, I can be had.
you you can be had. Well, let's see how we can look at some of your work. You've had a let's put this up here so it doesn't feel weird. Rogue Untouched, Deanna. You're wearing a shirt to prove your fandom.
My favorite couple.
I love it. Okay, wait, I have to say something about Rogue. So I started to mention this to you. So, Rogue was written, during the pandemic, and my everyone had a different pandemic. Mine, I launched very quickly into, very intense caretaking of my mom, and things were kind of crazy. So I don't remember how I ended the book, but I remember it was very strange, and I felt like it was like Escape from New York kind of situation. So yeah, I think the beginning might be a little stronger than the end there.
Well, let's just say, for argument's sake, is New Avengers any better than the Rogue Untouched?
I certainly wouldn't have the same excuse if it isn't.
Now we had you on, I believe, for Guilt. I was surprised. I thought this was a 4-issue, and it ended up being a 10-issue series.
Mhm.
Can you just give the high level pitch for Guilt?
Sure, sure. I mean, I think I always said it was Sex in the City of the '90s version crossed with the Golden Girls, and it's about a woman in her 80s who lives on a co-op on the Upper West Side, and it's one of those buildings, like the building in Rosemary's Baby, that has some special properties. The owner of the apartment can go out the fire door and go 40 years into her own past. But when she goes with an unwanted caregiver, they both end up being connected in the past. So a lot of this happens in the 1970s, and there's airplane disaster and sassy, overly sophisticated young girls in New York City, and all the tropes of the 70s.
Now I know that Ahoy is known for their humor, so it's got some fun and hijinks in there.
Yes, which is strange because I have no sense of humor.
No, none at all. None at all. You play it straight down the middle. Now, many novels you've written, and you've also written, what is this genre here? We're going to be talking about this horror-mance?
I do think that it probably is more horror-mance than anything else. Um, so with Cadaver and Queen, it's a Frankenstein retelling with a female medical student in a sort of alternate Victorian England. And the Frankenstein character is sort of a mashup of Victor and the monster. And I was told by many people that the fact that the third character in this love triangle is some murderer's left hand and arm is but yeah, so there's sort of three people in that relationship.
I think I see Deanna typing into Amazon right now, ordering this off of Amazon.
I love this stuff.
Now, Lisa, I was jealous because you worked on Vertigo Visions and you wrote for Vertigo, but you were also an editor for a long time at Vertigo.
I was.
So I had you on for the editor reunion episode. So tell us about Vertigo.
So I was at Vertigo before it had its name, in the primordial ooze of Vertigo, when it was just, Karen Berger's, strange sensibility. And it was wonderful. I mean, I'm still in touch with the people I worked with. Karen Berger and her husband, Richard Bruning, are still very close friends. Same with Paul Levitz, Tom Pyre, at Ahoy Comics, and Stuart Moore are still people I work with. Shelley Bond became Shelley Roberg. Shelley Roberg became Shelley Bond. So all of them are people I still connect with and feel, very strongly about. And Vertigo is back, baby. So, yeah, what Vertigo was, Paul Levitz once said of Karen Berger that all the stories, whether they were fantasy or horror, or whatever strange hybrid, they were about the world being somehow more and stranger than you had ever imagined possible.
I like that.
Mm.
Yeah, that's got a nice hook to it. And then you had also done this. Oops, did I lose the? No, I did not. You also wrote Zatanna, which was a younger version of Zatanna, right? It was a younger
It
take.
was yes, she goes back. She has to sort of go back to an alternate past. The main, the main thing that got me wanting to write that particular story of Mystic U was the idea, what do you do if you're a young person who's had this amazing talent and everyone thinks you're going to be a prodigy, and then you start screwing up? And I've been watching the Olympics and all of this pressure on Ilya Malinin, the quad god. And I was thinking, oh, I feel for him so much. It was that kind of a thing that was in my head when I was writing Mystic U.
So, Deanna, you're a journalist. You've seen most of these. Are you familiar with Alisa's work other than having read Rogue because
I'm obsessed with the character.
you love the character?
No, that is the one that I did read. I know the other books. I actually haven't read them, but I'm liking this Cadaver Queen. I think I have to pick that up. That looks good. That's
It's part of the
like
series of books, right, Quits?
Yes. So there's Cadaver and Queen and Corpse and Crown, which someone pointed out is actually the same title. And there, if of my horror stuff, sort of horror romancy, there's also The Better to Hold You and Moonburn. And those books were published as Alisa Sheckley. Sheckley was the name I was born with, and that's the name of my father, the writer Robert Sheckley.
Okay. Yeah, no,
Famous science fiction author, right, Quits?
Yes. He's great, funny, subtle, subversive. He was very big in the former Soviet Union.
Can you tell the story? Can you tell the story of the Vertigo writer who was inspired by your father's writing?
Yeah, so I was working on The Sandman, and Neil Gaiman and I would talk a lot about, when I was assistant editor on The Sandman, we would talk about writers that both of us had mutually loved, including a lot of the science fiction writers of the mid to late 50s and 60s and 70s. And when naming A Game of You, I believe that Neil was saying something about, playing with the title A Game of X, which was one of Sheckley's stories. And I always called him Sheckley. He did not raise me. And I know my mother changed my last name to Kwitney because he was not supporting me, visiting me. So I think at some point I said, so what do you think of Sheckley's writing? And Neil said, well, the early stuff, the short stuff is brilliant. It's genius. But then he kind of took too many drugs and he fell off the deep end. He's actually my father. And, and there was this appalled silence. And then I said, but I do completely agree. And I should say that my father and I did get to know each other after I was 14, and we bonded about stories and writing. So it was not like I felt hostility to my father. It's just, it was not a conventional father-daughter relationship.
I think the takeaway here, Deanna, is quits can lead you quietly into a trap. She played that one very well. You played that one. You probably played that one patiently. Come into my trap.
Matthew has a very good question, though. Is there ever such a thing as too many drugs? I'd say yes.
Absolutely. I think that I think that if you have to ask that question, then you're probably a sweet little innocent and should remain so.
Yes. All right. So let's get this party started. Quits. We brought you on here for a specific reason, and that specific reason is that we're going to have a very romantic episode. We talked about who you are as a writer, as a novelist, as a developmental editor. So let's get into this thing, which is, hold on, let me get to my slides. You know me, Deanna, always struggling with the slides, about Alisa Kwitney and developmental editing. Alisa Kwitney, I already saw. All right, Alisa, you were explaining to me last night as we were prepping, what's developmental editing?
It's the sexiest thing that two people can do together. I don't know. We went from romance to developmental editing. I'm a little confused here. It's when a writer and an editor love each other very much.
That's fantastic.
It's as opposed to the BDSM editing where you say, that's terrible, take it out on your knees.
So, but so an editor can be somebody who traffics, and there was a point in your career that you mentioned you were working on Shade, that something switched, and you stopped just being a traffic manager, and you started to help Peter Milligan with story, and we know that to be developmental editing. Talk about developmental editing.
So developmental editing is, I think, more about seeing opportunities and connections. And sometimes, it when you're right in it, deep in the writing process, you don't have that little bit of perspective to notice, oh, I keep mentioning dead fish, and here we are by the ocean. This might be a really interesting moment to connect those things. I may regret using that.
That's okay. We can always edit it to something cooler later.
So anyway, I was a very young assistant editor at working on Shade the Changing Man. And so for people who don't know, Shade is an alien from this very trippy realm. And he has come to Earth and ended up taking over the body of Troy Grenzer, right? Oh my God, it's been a while. Yes. And he is a serial killer who killed the parents of Kathy, who is the other main character. And so we're following Shade and Kathy as Kathy comes to realize that this is not the man who killed her parents, it's someone else, but inhabiting his body. And there's this romantic tension that builds between the two of them. And one of the things I talk about in romance is that ideally a couple should be perfectly wrong and yet somehow perfectly right for each other. So there was the conflict, keeping them apart, but there was also a lot of connection. And I was waiting for that moment as the scripts came in where they, where something would happen. And what happened instead is, in the initial script, as I recall, Peter just kind of switched to a point where they were involved. And I later realized that was something a lot of writers do to subvert expectations, that knowing that you're waiting for that first kiss, they want to kind of take you to a different place. And I think I said something to Karen Berger, and I said, I little missing knowing how they got together. How did they, you know, there's always this interesting gap when people have not been intimate and become intimate. And she said, you can go ahead and tell that to Peter and see what he wants to do with it. Um, so so I did, and that was the first time where I had a chance to talk a little bit about, reaction to a story and seeing an opportunity where I wanted to I wanted to know how this couple had, what had happened there. And actually, I mean, Peter did fascinating things with that couple because if you haven't read the series, it's amazing. So his response to it wasn't a traditional romance, but was a delightfully psychologically twisted thing. Really go back and read some Shade the Changing Man.
Well, I read Shade in bits and pieces, and it was always weird and disorienting and fascinating. And I know Deanna, you said Deanna's word, serial killers. So she was immediately on alert for what was coming next, right? Your favorite thing, right, Deanna?
Yep. Love me some serial killers.
Love you, serial killers.
Okay, so I just want to say that so in romance there are tropes, and tropes it can be a little confusing because it can refer to the type of character or the type of story or to a type of situation that people get in, or a kind of quality to the story. It's trippy, this tropiness. But one of the tropes that I've always loved in fiction and not so much in real life is the kiss you or kill you trope. That moment when you say, I wonder if this person wants to kill me or maybe is falling in love with me.
I wrote down some of your tropes, and we'll get to them later. But Deanna, can you remind me that when we get to that slide, we're going to have to add "kiss me"?
I just wrote it down.
You did. All right.
Can I say something about Rogue too? Because I really will. I get my chance to say the thing about Rogue that always attracted me to Rogue as a character. Okay, so I had this theory for years, which I would tell people, especially if you got a drink in me, and that theory was that Cyclops, the X-Men character with his laser eyes, that he couldn't quite control, like, oh God, if these things get, I'll just drill a hole for everyone I see, and it's going to happen at any moment. It was early male adolescent sexual anxiety. And Rogue seemed to me, and I first got introduced to the X-Men when I was in college, and it was Chris Claremont's run. I felt like Rogue's Rogue embodied a female adolescent sexual anxiety. I'm talking cisgender, heterosexual. Sorry, it was the 80s. And that is, oh, look, I have all this amazing power and all this desire to touch you and gain your abilities, but also lose the center of myself. And who am I? Maybe I'm you. Maybe you're me.
Yeah, so, no, there's definitely an allegory there.
So I wanted to play with that because I always thought it was such a delicious romantic conflict. So when I wrote Rogue, I knew what I wanted to do. I loved her in Gambit, and I really wanted to take them, and do a romance thing, which is to take them from a beginning, middle, and end. What ongoing superhero series do is they fall into more of a soap opera model. And in a soap opera model, you just keep following people and you have to keep doing something. So either they become kind of boring and only dealing with external conflicts, or something keeps ripping them apart and you lose some of that romance quality.
So I think you would mention something about Rogue. You were working on this story and you had to back up to the throughput of this character that started off in the very beginning as a slightly more two-dimensional character, and then added to that character over the years. And also Gambit, you had to kind of put them in the same place at the same time. Talk about, as a writer, what you have to do to put the right pieces in place to get the emotional charge that you're looking for? Oh wait, before we do that, what was the question?
Cyclops one eye. It all makes sense now.
Oh my God.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff. Keeping it rated PG. Thank you, Jeff. So Quits, talk about that through pit. Like, what did you have to do, and what sort of bending did you need to do to get to the story you wanted to get to?
So let me talk for a second about how I see romance. So once upon a time, there was the Romance Writers of America, which has imploded for reasons. And they would have different definitions of romance. And I never felt completely satisfied with their definition. For me, romance was not just about courtship, but about the grain in the oyster that creates the pearl of personal growth is that desire to be with someone who is both perfectly right for you in that they have some qualities that you may need to develop more. They enhance you, they challenge you, and there's all these reasons why they're also very wrong for you. And some of it could be external, some of it could be internal, but it all is a spur to positive personal growth. So anytime someone says Wuthering Heights, it's just a fabulous romance, I'm thinking, no, unless there's positive personal growth, because that's part of the optimistic ending of romance, which is either, happy ever after or happy for now, or it's looking like this might work. But the looking like it might work is not just that these two people can, manage together, but that they will be there for each other and help each other be the best versions of themselves.
And it's you said this as well, like, and we're going to touch on this. There are different types of romance, and the exploding popularity of what is it, fantasy? What's the word?
Romantasy?
Romantasy. That's an exploding, growing category thanks to Book Talk and some of the other platforms. You had mentioned that there was horrormance. Did I get that right?
Yes. I mean, I think the explosion of romantasy has a lot to do with our dystopian present, too. It's nobody can get far enough from reality.
We need to escape.
But there's different types of
Yes,
of romance.
there's a lot of subgenres, and there's a lot of different flavors of romance. So it's kind of when people say, "Do you like comics?" And there's so many different kinds of comics. There's so many different kinds of romance, and they people will send me something where some romance writer announced that she uses AI to write 500 novels in the space of an afternoon. And somebody else says, I've spent 10 years, writing a romance in Middle English. Romance is huge, and it encompasses a lot of different types of things. My own, there are, I should go back to, reconstructing characters, but when romance is at its best for me is when a writer has something a little bonkers about them. There are so many different ways that romance has been bonkers over the years. And you can just tell when somebody has their own slightly insane thing that they're doing. And I love it. It is something AI will never be able to duplicate. The person who says, I really every tentacle has its own individual personality, and that's going to be, a mainstay of my world.
Well, all right. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to prompt you on a couple things that you had talked about with me ahead of time in pre-check here. We were going to talk about some classic romance examples, and we're going to go over here. We're going to make this really big. And I did the graphic here. Talk to me about what you consider one of the more interesting love triangles. And you started talking about the characteristics, and I will take notes right in here.
I'm student your side that I can't look at you and also see these comments, and I'm dying to see what everyone's saying. But okay, so I will give you a romance. Obviously, there are a lot of us. A lot of different people love romance, and my yum might be your yuck, and vice versa. That said, I was a huge Buffy fan, and yes, I realized that that Joss Whedon was almost my TA. I was at Wesleyan at the same time. Kit Reed was my writing professor, and Joe Reed, her husband, was the head of the film department. And I started a film class, and then I dropped out because I thought it was too technical. But anyway, had I been in that, then Joss Whedon would have
Maybe
been.
you would have been writing on Buffy.
Oh, wow.
Who the hell knows? But anyway, so I was a huge fan of Buffy. And one of the things that I would say as a rough generalization is that romance people I know do not ship Buffy and Angel. We ship Buffy and Spike.
Correct.
Wait, Deanna, I totally got it wrong. I'm like, she was like romance and Buffy, and I was like, an angel. And
Nope. It's Spike. It is
I did
absolutely
tell you, I told you. So there are a lot of reasons why I think, but one of the most so Jenny Cruzy, great contemporary romance writer. She and I spent many an hour discussing how much the writers didn't quite understand what they had in the Buffy and Spike. And it's sort of fascinating to me because writers don't always know what they're doing, even when there's a team of writers, a whole writers room, and you know. So they had it on paper. On paper, Buffy and Spike were supposed to be bad news. He was a sign of the fact that she died and come back wrong, and now she was listless and working at a McDonald's adjacent place, and you know, and he loved her passionately, but it was a dangerous obsession.
Mhm.
That is what they thought they were doing, and then they got them together, and then they had to make it fall apart really quickly. What they actually had done was something so much more interesting, like what was on the paper, you know? It's really one of those signs that writer's intention is not so important. So the thing that they created was someone who was so driven that she did not know how to really let go and be a human and feel desire and have the selfishness that comes with just being in a relationship. And along comes this bad boy, perfectly wrong for her and perfectly right, and challenges her. And he has always had the soul of a poet. So underneath all of his cynicism, there's this incredible romanticism, and he is utterly obsessed with her. And so when they finally, I'm sorry, I'm going on and on about this.
That's why you're here.
I'm totally with you on the Buffy Spike thing, so keep going.
So I'm gonna spoiler, guys. It won't ruin anything for anyone because it's still, just take it from the beginning. There is this great scene where they fight, and then they end up finally consummating this long
Wait, which they are we talking about?
Buffy.
Spike and Buffy.
Spike and Buffy, not Angel and Buffy.
Nope.
No, we're not even just
Let go of Angel.
no
Try to
offense.
keep up, buddy.
That's
All right.
not where most
No.
of us have our fantasies. So Buffy and Spike are fighting, and really fiercely, in this abandoned building. And as they start to, you know, fight, they break down floor by floor, and they're falling through until they reach the bottom level. And I think that the writers meant for this to be a sign that they'd hit rock bottom or they destroyed something. But, you know, all of us romantics were like, we know where you've landed.
Oh yeah.
Wait, well, I'm lost. What's the truth behind it?
Like Jay says, they brought the house down, literally.
It's like, we're going to get past all of these barriers.
Yeah.
You are going to get to the real, authentic heart of me.
Yeah.
And then they have some raunchy, surprisingly, I'm not even sure how they did that. So, but, you know, you go back and it's grainy and it's fuzzy, but, no, we love it. And so that is also where I think a lot of fan fiction comes out of, because then they took the love story and they ruined it. But it's impossible, you know, for me to believe their ending. It's kind of like the Hannibal Lecter Clarice thing. It's like the writer was so wrong that his version seems like the fan fiction and the fan fiction seems like the right thing. Sorry, I'm off on a rant right now.
Okay. So Deanna,
Yes.
when I said Angel and you said no, Spike, why is this so universally understood by the two of you
Okay,
and
so
not me?
besides the fact that just from a very basic visceral perspective, Spike was just always more attractive, and he's got that accent, which is just superb. Um, for me, because I huge Buffy fan, and I was always the age of the characters, so I
Mhm.
had like this weird connection because I was literally as they were growing, I was growing too. And it's funny watching it much later in life how things change. But anyway, um, your perspective changes a little bit. But anyway, so with Spike, my theory was with Angel, it was all not that he was, I mean, he has his soul. That was his whole thing. He was the vampire with the soul. But when he didn't have his soul, he was awful. He was evil. He was a murderer, and there was no redemption in him. He couldn't love her because he was just a murdering, horrible person. Spike loved her despite not having a soul. And later in the show, he goes and gets a soul for her essentially, but Spike loved her even as a demonic vampire. So like Angels is almost like, and it's funny because the first time that Buffy and Angel get together, he turns evil, which is such a metaphor for like high school sex.
Yeah.
Like you sleep with your high school boyfriend and he turns into a jerk. Like that's essentially what that is. But like even though Spike is questionable and there's he does become obsessive and he does become there there is a he tries to rape her essentially in that one episode when they're in the bathroom, but he becomes obsessive with her. But he did have his love for her was always more genuine in my opinion because he loved her even as an evil demon, where Angel, when he was Angelus the demon, he was awful. He had to have his soul to not be a complete jerk.
But also, I mean, he was fun and she
Mm,
needed that
he
fun.
needed that,
So
yes.
it goes back to what I was trying to say about couple chemistry. So there are ways in which characters can fall into archetypes. And
I
I have
do love that.
here
Angel is pretty much a plank of wood. I agree.
no, baby. Wait, where's my book of archetypes? I have it here somewhere. Oh, here. So it's funny. This is ancient and dog-eared now. And I often degender these because they've got like the warrior, which is always male in this, and the swashbuckler is always male, and the free spirit's the female version. And I just degender. In fact, I'm reading The Everlasting by Alex Harrow right now, and it's very much got a female warrior. But anyway, but if you kind of look at it archetype wise, Buffy is a crusader. She is all about her mission. And aside from, everyone's got a little quippiness in the Whedonverse, but she is essentially my dog is like trying to
I'm like, is that me?
I couldn't figure out that was.
um, and what Spike gives you, Spike is such a weird character because he started out as a tortured and nerdy poet and
Mhm.
then becomes a bad boy. But you know that he's already got, it's not just that he has soul or no soul. There's like half of him is nerdy poet and half of him is black leather jacketed bad boy. He's kind of like a Jeff Goldblum kind of character. And to me, always that combination is particularly delicious.
Mhm.
Another, by the way, all-time favorite is 10th Kingdom, which has a weird loser nerd turned very cool kiss you or kill you all mushed up together.
Mhm.
It's a very strange miniseries, and not many people know it, but you might like it.
All right, I'm gonna take us into something that is more in the comic book realm because while we've said that novels are exploding with romantasy,
Mhm.
and horror fantasy, you were at Vertigo and were able to experience some of these amazing Vertigo stories. Now I'm looking at Swamp Thing number 34. Alisa, do you feel like you want to touch on what was happening in this? I have a couple of slides in this.
The tubers, the tubers. So, if people are always asking, what's your favorite Alan Moore? Is it V for Vendetta? Is it Watchmen? And for me, it's the Love and Death saga of Swamp Thing, because I am a romance horror person. So it's where you've got Abigail Arcane. And Swamp Thing have been this Beauty and the Beast couple, but he is a vegetable god. He is an elemental. He is, all fibrous, growthy things. And he is not an animal. He's not a mammal. It's pretty clear that he has not got the schmeckle. And at some point, Abby says, I'm perfectly content with this relationship as it is. And Swamp Thing says, no, you are human. You need more. And the way they created the ability for them to consummate their relationship and have a union where the two of them become one for a moment is just wonderful, inventive, trippy. Obviously the art just is incredible here. It's a really light moment and a beautiful moment in a series that skews very dark too.
So in this scene, now, Deanna, are you familiar with this scene?
No.
So in this scene, Alex says to Abby, how can we consummate? How can we be closer? And in this scene, Swamp Thing grows a tuber onto his body, and then he rips the tuber off. He rinses it off, brings it to Abby, and Abby eats this tuber from that he has grown from his body, and she has a transcendental psychedelic experience in which their minds and bodies merge in a way she didn't think was possible, right? It's transcendent. The art is,
And look at
all over the place.
And what the panels do here is brilliant. One of the things that we were going to talk about is how can you have a love or sex scene in comics without having it be too explicit and, veering into full on, X-rated, although the Xenophile, love it. Anyway, but in this, just can you pull back to show how the panels, I mean, I'm sure I'm telling everyone things they already know, but when panels become smaller and you've got more of them in the space, you have the feeling of time speeding up. And so it starts slow and then it starts to go faster. And so there's all these ways that we are communicating that something is building in whatever trippy, transcendental, organic way.
Well, and what ends up happening in the end is they have the union, and she quips, does this mean that we're going out? Line, and then they share a kiss, and it is something that I read, like you, Quits. I read comics, and then I stopped in high school and then rediscovered them in college. This is one of the things I rediscovered. I found this amazingly disturbing that he grew a piece of himself and then she ate it like a communion. I don't know. Is this romantic? Is this horrormancy? What is this?
I think it's both. I think there's something that I call the cannibal aspect of desire anyway, which is I so admire some quality in you that I don't feel I have as much as I want, that I want to sort of consume you and get at it to have more.
You're
of
not talking about me personally. You're just talking in general in a storyteller, not me. Because that would be.
I was speaking to both of you.
Oh, to both of us. Okay.
All right.
But
that was a throuple comment.
But so I think that idea that you are, the language of love, even with children, is like, I go, oh, you're so cute, I could eat you. I think that there's this Yes, but I do think that this is so with romantasy, I want to say that romantasy, I was a science fiction fan of way back. So I remember when Anne McCaffrey was doing stuff that was very dragon romantasy, and she also did other wonderful stuff with telepaths in outer space that deserves to be read. The Rowan was one of them. But so romantasy started being more epic. I think it's now become more of a catch-all term, and there's a lot of, cozy witches trying to rehab their inns, and there's, I think it's expanding, and maybe we'll split off into different sub romantasy genres. Horrormance is so new that I'm not even sure that it has a real definition. I just read the Rachel Harrison novel Play Nice, and I think it is, she, like Grady Hendrix, kind of combines horror with a lot of domestic fiction, literary fiction stuff, and there's a romance subplot,
Okay,
and
so
anyway, so
one of the things that I really wanted to get to, and we're butting up against time here, and I want to make sure we have enough time for this, is at least some tips that we could give to people who are curious about writing in this genre. Um, and I know that Deanna, I saw you taking notes as we were going.
Mhm.
Can we help generate some tips for people who are like, look, I'm interested in trying this, but I am afraid because I know that I might not get it right. What are some romance writing tips from a person who's done it as extensively as you?
hmm. Well, one of them I've said already, which is I think that the couple chemistry should be perfectly wrong and perfectly right. So there should be some way in which this couple isn't right for each other. It can be because of external conflicts, but ideally, I think it's always good to have internal conflicts as well.
That's a good one. All right, Deanna,
Mhm.
hit me from the Deanna list.
Well, I wrote down the whole kiss or kill thing. I think this, Buffy and Spike is a good example of that. They shouldn't match, but they do.
Yeah.
But even the Swamp Thing is that it's that Beauty and the Beast thing.
Yeah.
It's they shouldn't go together. There's and even if you talk about the classic story Beauty and the Beast, they don't get along at first. There's a massive problem. It takes a while for them to fall in love and for her to, especially to see past just the physical part to see who he is as, as a person, as a man. It's boring otherwise. If they're too good for each other, if it's too nice, it's boring. So you do need that conflict where they shouldn't match, but they end up matching perfectly well. And like, one of the comments, I think it was Redheaded Ed said it earlier, about going back to the Angel and Buffy thing, it's who they bring out in each other.
Mhm.
Can they accept each other and how do they push each other forward? Or do they make that like she was, Erin was saying, Angel made Buffy question herself while Spike accepted her who she was and made her a better Slayer. So I think that's another important piece of that opposite attract kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Not bad. Not bad. Well, that's why I have her on the show. She's also a writer. All right, give me another romance tip.
I think it has to be specific desire. You have to buy the idea that these two people are not interchangeable with other two people. You have to believe that there is a way that if one of them went away, they would not instantly be replaced by another blonde and another, guy with a strong jaw or whatever, or woman with a strong jaw.
Yeah, I think that goes with superhero stories as well, right? I mean, if you can just flop any character in there, then it's just a generic story. But if it will only work with this character, if it will only work with Zatanna and only Zatanna, then it's a Zatanna story. If it will work with any character with magic, then it's just generic, right?
Mhm. Absolutely. And I think that people who don't love genre and they look to the outside, they think, oh, it's just surface. But what we're always aiming at is that feeling of um of something that feels earned, that feels, as they say in in writing programs, that the moment feels authentic. So that leads me to the next thing. So the desire has to be specific. And the tricky part isn't writing the mechanics of a kiss or a sex scene. The tricky part is bringing the reader along on a journey of desire. So that by the time there is some, I mean, if there is a kiss or a sex scene, one of the sexiest scenes I ever read in fiction had to do with a man taking a glove off of a woman's hand, button by button, and he's compromising her. It's sort of a test and a challenge and a fight. And by removing this glove, he is going to compromise her in public, but she can't stop him because she is just getting so carried away by the intensity of this touch.
So is that part? What's the question there?
The build is more important than the payoff, and that you're building that tension, like, ooh, what's going to happen now? It's definitely, it plays with your own sense of what gets you going, what fires you up a bit.
All right, keep going. Or I'm fired up.
All right. So another one for me is, I think I've said this to a lot of people, that this is for sex in fiction as opposed to real life. But I think sex in fiction has the same guideline for me that a fight scene has, which is the person who came in with the most power leaves with the least power. So that if you have a tremulous virgin entering a scene with a, experienced person for whom physical intimacy means nothing, you're not going to end that love scene with the virgin being all starry-eyed and in love and the playboy just untouched. It's going to be flipped. And the reason is the same reason that this happens in fight scenes in fiction, that fiction is all about the engines of change and transformation.
We have a good one from Redheaded Ed here. What happens when anticipation goes unrewarded, or is too long delayed? How do you know how long the journey should be?
Oh gosh. I mean, that is an interesting pacing question. I don't think there's one right answer. I mean, some books are called slow burn books, and some people really love a slow burn. Other people want more, things to be happening more quickly. And maybe, the same person might be in the mood for different kinds of stories at different times. So I think there is no one, right answer. I always feel that as a writer, I'm writing for myself if I were the reader who hadn't written the book. So the best I can say is imagine what you yourself would want to read and have happen at this point if you weren't the writer.
Is there something to be said for the payoff never happening? Like, is there a story that you can think of where there's such a buildup, but there's almost like they don't actually get together? Because you've heard stories of, especially in TV shows, people complain when the two characters who have such sexual tension, when they finally get together, it ruins the story.
No, no, there is no situation in which this is satisfying. It's like it's like those stupid videos where someone's torturing a dog or a cat. Like, here's a cheek, here's a cheek. Here's a joke. It's plastic. No, it's not okay.
I love that. How fired up she got. That's awesome. Well, like the one that I think of the most that I feel like everybody complained about was Mulder and Scully.
I knew you were going to go there. Yeah.
Right? That's the one where there was such buildup of their relationship, and then everybody got really mad when they actually got together. They felt like it ruined the show. Right?
Well, okay, so here's the thing, that there's a difference between an ongoing series and what happens with that and the romance arc. So, okay, I think this is in a romance, the moment of biggest transformation, biggest payoff is going to come when the couple finally overcomes all the obstacles, or the throuple or whatever, and gets together. At this point, the energy drains out. It's kind of like an orgasm, right? It's like build, 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 build. And then the deep relaxation and the chance to finally sleep. But if your series is going to keep going on, either you need to switch to a different couple or you're going to have to do something else and tear them apart yet again. So this is the problem with, having, I'm sorry, I get all fired up about
It's
these.
okay.
This is why you're here.
So you end up getting soap opera vibes rather than romance, pure romance vibes. Another thing for me, I know, look, Outlander, wonderful book series, TV series too. But I lost interest after book 2 or 3. I just thought, leave these people alone. Write some other characters already. I'm too much of a romance person. And I thought, if Jamie goes through one more goddamn thing, I just can't do it.
Well, that's kind of the problem with these two, right? Because that's why they throw
I
the
like
ball.
a woman who talks about her chest that way. Sorry.
And that's the end of the show. On a high note.
I'm sorry, that was so inappropriate.
That was awesome.
Everybody's like, yes.
The most replayed part of the show.
But like Rogue and Gambit, like I think they're perfectly matched. But then, because it's an ongoing, these are characters that are constantly going up and down and dying and coming back. And then they throw in Magneto and makes the worst possible love triangle ever. It does. It makes it harder when it is an ongoing story to keep that, like you said, that climax from not. Yeah.
You want so what people do in romance is they essentially have standalones or they have a duology, and then when that couple finishes their arc, they go into a kind of quiescent state and they'll appear as guest stars, and they'll appear doing something else, or sometimes they'll have some B plot role, but you don't mess up their relationship. And so it's, Buddy and I were talking earlier about the fact that now that there are fewer extended long series and you get more duologies and 3-parters, it kind of lends itself to a structure where you might have an emphasis on a psychological romance arc, because a good romance is a lot of angsty psychological stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
All right. So are we good with these 5 tips for romance, or do we want to add another one, Alisa? Because I know that you teach a class on this.
Yeah. I mean, so these are tips. Those are just tips for the writing, but I would say that the first thing to do is identify what you genuinely love to read. So, we talked about fated to be mated, which takes, if you're writing a shorter piece and someone, I can't stand you because you are, a warrior of the Zerg clan and I am a priestess of the Knurgs, and never the two shall, share a value. But unfortunately, the red light in the middle of my forehead, went nippy, and now I must have you. I don't know where that even came from, but so that's sort of the fated to be mated trope. It's not one that I particularly like. I prefer to cheat it by having the people have had a past. I do think that the older you get, the more born to be the savior or born to, we were destined to be mated seems, I think, a little less appealing. That one soulmate, one chosen, I don't know. What do you guys think? But if you want an older reader, you probably stay away from those tropes.
Go ahead, Deanna.
Oh, I like this one from Glenn. Ogre. All right, I had to put that up.
I love monster heroes. Often, by the way, a monster hero, like if he's a troll with tusks and a third eye and, 17 hands, he's often what you call a cinnamon roll hero at heart. Really sweet, very kind, not at all ferocious.
Yes.
Yeah, I wrote down a few of your common tropes here. Let me increase the size of this because I was writing them down last night.
I'm going to regret having put my face that close to the camera. I don't know. I'll be the Cyclops.
Can't see anything either.
So tell us what these tropes are, because I think that
you really think I need to break a cinnamon roll is the only one. I just explained that one. So a bad boy, I guess a bad girl is also another possibility, is, there's a black leather jacket, kind of little subversive. I started to watch the JFK Jr. Carolyn Bessette love story, and I think she's the bad boy. She's the one who's, smoking cigarettes and chugging down drinks and seems more a little more daring.
But
So
now both of you said that Spike was the bad boy.
Mhm.
What is it about the bad boy in fiction and in romance that's appealing? Deanna, I'm going to ask you first.
Well, and honestly, this ties into Gambit as well. It's the guy who shouldn't be falling for the girl. He's the one who's flitting about, doing his thing, causing trouble. Gambit specifically has conquered many a woman, and there's something about, and this especially when you're younger and before, when you're a younger girl and you're thinking about you're reading about this kind of thing. It's like taming the bad boy. He's a bad boy, but he loves her. It's the bad boy with the heart of gold. Like, Gambit
That's the appeal.
it kind of is. There's he will punch some guy in the face, but he'll take care of her. He loves her deeply. Like with Rogue and Gambit, she physically can't touch him. This is a guy who literally has women falling over themselves to get to him, and he will gladly join. But with her, it's different. He's different with her, and there's something about that attraction, even with Spike. Spike is a murderer. He's psychotic. But with Buffy, he's different. And I don't know what that says psychologically.
Oh, and by the way, anyone, do not do this. This doesn't work in real life.
It doesn't work in real life ever.
Yeah,
Don't
this
do it
is
in real life. This is total
you know,
fantasy.
enjoy it in fiction.
What is the appeal of the bad boy?
Wait, can I read?
Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
The bad boy. Bad boy struts into every room, daring one and all to knock the chip from his shoulder. It may seem that he cares nothing for the opinion of others, but in fact, the reverse is true. All his life, he's been pointed out as a bad example, so he does his best to maintain that reputation. As far as he is concerned, it is not his fault other people cannot or will not see the man beneath the image.
It's exciting. There's an excitement there. He's the rough and tumble. He's rough around the edges. He's not, there's a bit of a challenge.
Easy and dirty dancing. He's
All right, so
There's a
just
challenge
close
there,
close the loop for me. One hand, there's this bad boy attraction. The other hand, firefighters. Just talk to me, because
Oh, yeah.
well, that's warrior. That is well, there's different, but that's often a warrior archetype.
That's not really a bad boy. I wouldn't count the firefighters.
no, that's what I mean. He's the
Yeah.
opposite of a bad boy. He runs into danger. He is completely unselfish.
But the bad boy isn't the only archetype. Another one that speaks to me in particular is the lost soul. He's brooding, he's angsty, he's miserable. Boy, is he depressed, He's on the edge.
All right, Deanna, what about you? The lost soul? What do you
I
think?
mean, it depends on the law. So sometimes the broody, angsty emo is not my vibe. I tend to favor the bad boy that it's the Gambit. For me, it's the Gambit vibes. I don't know what it is.
I
but
don't
not
think
real life.
Gambit's, but I don't think Gambit's a bad boy. I think he's a swashbuckler.
Okay.
I think he's a risk taker.
Yes.
I think he's not. He may be a little naughty and mischievous, but he's not surly and provocative in that way.
The way Spike is. No, I would agree with that. Like for me, as soon as they introduced Spike, I was like, Angel who? Bye.
Yeah,
Really?
Gambit's a naughty boy.
Yeah. It's but guys have a version of this too. It's not just the women and the bad boys. There's boys have this it's the naughty. There's a naughty vibe, from the girl who's a little bit dangerous. It's the same thing.
What's the female?
I don't know what her name. I don't know what her
Is it
name.
the party girl? What is it?
I mean, I think all of these can be gender swapped. I think there's the bad boy can be the bad girl. I think in this book, which is, going by the more traditional, the alternate to the bad boy is the femme fatale, but I think that's a little different. I think Rizzo in Grease is actually a really good version of a bad girl.
Yeah, yeah.
Who else? Faith
Oh,
and
that's a good one. Yeah, for Buffy, Faith. Yeah.
who else is kind of, it'll come to me like moments after where, Red Sonja, I think, is a lost soul character.
Mm.
A lost soul. How come Red Sonja is a lost soul?
Well, because she's got the Geas against her, and she, by the way, Xenophile back in the 90s did the funniest little short story riff on Red Sonja, where she gets beaten in a game of chess. But anyway.
So you must defeat her too. All right, here we go. So there are a couple of romance tropes. Some of them are good, some of them not so good. Give us the 5-second each on those top two.
Enemies to lovers and fake courtships.
Yeah.
So enemies to lovers just has this built-in conflict, where people start out very much in opposite teams, tribes. There's different reasons why they would be enemies, but often it's a rivalry of some sort, which is always fun, and I think The Hating Game was a contemporary romance that had that. You could see lots of ways to do that with superheroes. Fake courtship. There's always a perfectly good reason why, listen, this isn't real, but we're going to have to pretend so that my family will stop asking me to, get married or whatever. And I think all of these also create opportunities for forced proximity, because it's really hard to build up a yearning for someone who's not around at all.
I like it.
Here, we have a good one. Duh, Catwoman. We forgot about Catwoman. That's a good point.
Oh, yes. Well, which there've been sort of different iterations of Catwoman, I would say.
And then we also had from Glenn Starbuck from New School Battlestar Galactica.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love Starbuck.
Mhm.
One of my
So
favorites.
they kind of blew. So, I was going to say that Joss Whedon is very good at creating desire, and then he always wants to subvert for no good reason, like, haha, you thought it was cheese, but it's plastic. And so, there's the building up of the romance possibility between Black Widow and Hawkeye in one of the early Avengers films, and then it's, haha, she's with Hulk, but I'm not going to create any sense of yearning between these two people, just now they're boring and together. And so when I did the New Avengers, I really wanted to do the love story that I was hoping would have developed from that. Funny story, they told me I could switch out the team. This was sort of a riff on Bendis's Breakout. And I think at one, I'm trying to remember, this is a few years ago now, that I said, well, I want to use Black Widow. And they assumed that I wanted to switch out the female character who'd already been in. And I said, no, I would like to have two female characters to write, please. Women can do something other than be in this romantic relationship. Anyway, so that's, I'm sure they're more enlightened now.
Well, Deanna, I'm going to take a minute and we're going to ask Quits to give us one piece of advice the way we have done. You did this a long time ago. You made it into our super cut, and now we're ready for another one. What'll happen is I'll pull a one piece of advice graphic up. You give yourself a 3 count, and then you can position as one piece of advice. This way you tee it up for an edit. So give me 1 second to tee up the graphic.
One piece of advice that I wish people had given me, it's that sometimes people will ask you for a pitch and you secretly need to go and actually write the story and then pretend you haven't written it already in order to do it as a pitch.
Because it's already written in your head?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the theory is you should be able to give this really great, concise pitch. And sometimes you can, and sometimes you actually need to go write the story and then pretend you haven't and then pitch it.
You got to figure it out. Okay, here we go. So Quits, here we go. We're going to say they can find you at your website at alisakwitney.com, where you have, I would say, most of your writing up there. I noticed there was not all of it was up there, but most of it's there, right? It's not an
Yeah.
exhaustive list. In fact, I pulled up Phantom Stranger because I like that with what you had done with that. That's not on your website. And you're active on Blue Sky, right?
Yes, I need to get I'm also on Instagram, and Facebook, and I've got a Substack these days.
Yes, so let's get to that. So you've got Substack. What are you doing here on the Substack, and why should people follow your Substack?
I am trying to include things that combine writing advice and sort of my own strange talking about everything from Logan's Run to Charlton Heston as a horny virgin in the naked jungle, and sort of strange mashups of things. But I end up talking about, like, I talked about Marty Supreme, a movie that seems to not understand the existence of foreplay.
Oh, like me. So I think you will probably remember all the things you forgot to say tonight on the show, and then that will be on your Substack, right?
Yes, yes, as and in addition, the humiliation for the things I did say,
No,
like
listen,
developmental editing.
you did great. I mean, we barely scratched the surface of what you, me, and Bill talked about on the ride home last night, and we had so many. I jumped through over a whole bunch of slides, and people should keep an eye out for your recently published book by Ahoy Comics called Howl. Tell them about Howl.
How I think my one sentence is it's Mrs. Maisel meets Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but it's also the story of my parents as beatniks living in Greenwich Village. And it's also about a fungal invasion.
Mm.
There are, because it was inspired by my parents, it's got some of their letters, which are just so funny and sharp. They were both very witty writers at a time when, writing was letter writing was a part of how people courted each other, and they were just quippy and clever, and let's face it, the beatnik era in Greenwich Village was really one of the all-time cool periods to be alive.
So this is a graphic novel?
It's a graphic novel, yeah. So
It's a graphic novel, and of course, Howl has Ahoy has sort of staked the claim on everything that they do. It's got to have some sort of angle of humor. So you're exploring your humorous side. Is that what?
yes, I mean, I think almost everything besides Destiny, maybe the only. No, some of my earlier comics work wasn't funny, but I think most of my later stuff has some humor, and this definitely does. It's you know, it's and it's got humor, it's got horror, and it's got psychological family stuff.
And is Howl the reference to the Allen
Ginsberg,
Ginsberg
yeah.
poem?
It had other titles. Originally, I think it was Future Wife, and then for a while it was Flesh Puppets.
Flesh puppets. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if that doesn't get us banned, I don't know what will. So we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping. Can we put you in the green room? I think Deanna got some snacks for you in the green room. What did you leave in the green room for Quits?
So Quits wanted some fancy candy from China.
China.
Yes.
So she just couldn't get, like, I don't know, like a Zagnut bar out of the vending machine.
No, nothing.
Really
Nothing
make you work for it?
Had to be fancy. Super.
All right.
New Year.
So Quits, hang out there for a little bit. We might need you to come back, but enjoy the snacks. Just root around there and you'll find the snacks. So don't go far, but everybody should give a round of applause to our guest for being a lot of fun, very generous. Quits, I feel like every time we have you on, it's like we get up to about a quarter of what we wanted to talk to, and then we just have to plan to have you come back.
Oh.
All right, so go hide in the green room for a minute and see if you can find those snacks. So that was fun, huh?
Yes, very fun.
All right, so what did you learn as a horror writer tonight that was an aha for you? And then I'll tell you what I learned.
So for me, as a horror writer, primarily the positive ending part that she was talking about, because, if I work primarily in horror and mystery and thriller, the ending doesn't have to be positive. It could be a total downer and it fits the genre. But if you're going to lean into that romance, you do need a little bit of a payoff, a positive payoff. So that's, even if the whole story doesn't end happily, some part of it, if you're adding in that romance, you do want a little bit of satisfaction, a little bit of payoff in a good way.
And it's funny that you say that, because one of the things I learned from Quits tonight was very similar, that after they do ship, after there's that, and you hit the peak, and then what she called taking a nap, go back to bed. Yeah, you've just let all the air out of the balloon. You've released the tension, and now they become domesticated, and that's a heck of a lot different of a character dynamic than we originally. Hold on. Quits, did we get your advice right? Did we capture that right? And are you enjoying the snacks?
Yes, very much. I mean, in romance, you have one of genre romance has to end on an up note. So I think that if, if you have the characters ending, happily for the moment, and then one of them turns into a turnip, I don't know if it really still qualifies as romance, but and my dog is going insane at that. But yeah, I think you can play with them and incorporate those elements. And I think, in a romance novel, often they get together and then they split apart. Something breaks them apart until the final. But then you do want them to be okay for a little while. You would like them to just enjoy themselves, and I guess that is part of, it's even at the end of a certain kind of horror book, you would like to think that, at least the killer plant is happy.
Well, and at the end of a good horror, like the last girl trope in horrors, you want somebody to live, right? When Michael Myers killed everybody, you wanted somebody to live, and you didn't know who it was going to be, but you kind of got a happy ending, even though you got a twist on the, he didn't was he really dead? But like, you want some sort of conclusion, right?
I mean, there's some horror that skews incredibly dark, I have to say. I am myself probably about a 12-year-old horror reader, in the sense that that's how dark. I don't want to go any darker than I wanted to go when I was 12. But if I have to, I will.
Matthew says, unless it's a Nicholas Sparks novel, which needs to end in death. Yeah, his are downers for sure.
Yeah, they all. Although, Quit, you turned me on to a couple of horror books. One was it Cold Storage was one of them.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And I think that's becoming a movie as well. And then was made into a movie. And then there was another one with bugs or something.
Oh, The Nest.
The Nest. Yeah.
Yeah. Paperbacks from Hell has
Paperbacks from Hell. Yeah.
Delicious.
I tapped out of The Nest. It was a little too much for me.
Don't watch the TV movie, guys.
Don't watch the TV movie?
Yeah.
Listen, why don't you just stay for the rest of the show? Enjoy your snacks that Deanna has put for you. We're gonna pull the rest of this stuff up. So you can find Comic Book School on all the socials. You can find us on. What did she get you there? Oh, you got it in a little velvet bag. All right, hold this up. Let's see what she got for you in the green room.
Fancy. Look at this.
Well, that was really nice, Deanna.
I tried.
All right, very.
Her New Year today, so it was a little bit easier to find.
Oh, very cute. Very good. And I like the bag. The packaging matters, Deanna. Mike usually just wraps it in newspaper.
It's more presentation. Presentation is like half of it.
That's right. That's her reward for surviving this episode. Okay. So we're on all the socials. You can find us on all the places on Comic Book School. You can find Deanna and Mike at their names in just about every different place. Deanna and I are both on Patreon. Thank you to our Patreon supporters. We just added a new Patreon supporter this week named McGill, joined at the $2 tier, friend of the school. So Quits, it's awesome. People are throwing money at Comic Book School. We're going to need, it's like a leaf blower of cash, the way they're throwing it at us.
This is great. And now I have to have water to
survive. But thank you, Matthew, Redheaded Ed, Michael, and James for supporting Comic Book School. And of course, You can also find on Patreon from our show all of the slides from the show, including the list that we just generated. Sometimes there's art and scripts that we didn't get to. For example, there was Alisa's office that we didn't get to. If there's how to draw videos, generally we'll show a clip on the show. We'll show the full thing on the Patreon. If I see a job listing, I post it there. I put music inspiration, video inspiration. We talk about video, public domain ebooks. So last couple weeks ago, Alisa, we had Max Allan Collins on, and the Maltese Falcon fell into the public domain. Max wrote a novel on it, and I posted the public domain version, and we keep putting that up there. Bonus art that's not on the show, and of course our community spotlight, where we highlight you, our viewers, and what awesome stuff you're doing. Mike Fasolo, our other host, who drew the short straw and did not get to be on the show with you, writes a Substack. He's writing a novel week by week, where he's writing a novel about writing a novel. So it's very meta, and people are giving him money because it's not bad. And Deanna is just getting started on her Patreon, and people should start to follow Deanna's Patreon, because pretty soon we're going to be telling you guys about Deanna's spin-off show that she'll be doing here at Comic Book School. It'll be our first spin-off that is not part of the main show, so we'll be announcing that in about a week or two. So you should jump on the Deanna train as soon as possible, if you can. And then furthermore, we have some upcoming episodes. Max Allan Collins had such a good time that he's going to be coming back for a Saturday night special, Deanna. We run out of Tuesdays, Lisa. So you got to be on a Tuesday. Max Allan Collins only gets a Saturday. So he's coming back. He's got he's going to have the debut of one of his novels done with a full cast of A-list actors that he had commissioned, and he's going to be talking about that. And on February 24th, which is this coming Tuesday, we will have Mark London, who is the CEO and founder of Mad Cave Studios. We're talking about the journey of Mad Cave and how that company has exploded. That company just keeps getting bigger and bigger, doesn't it, Alisa? I mean, every time you turn around, Deanna's writing another article about them.
I have got to watch that show.
You have to. Deanna, like, what are they? They're publishing so many different things now, right?
The big one is Dick Tracy, which we talked about with Alex a couple weeks ago. So that's their big push right now.
Well, they've got they bought Paper Cuts.
Mm-hmm.
They got the Disney line.
Yep.
They got Dick Tracy. They got Flash Gordon.
Yep. They got a lot of big stuff.
Speed Racer. I mean, they're just picking up properties like crazy. So we'll be talking with them. So like every other episode, we're going to put on the exit porn music and say thank you all for joining us tonight, as you join us for every Tuesday night on Comic Book School Live. We do this because you show up, you keep showing up, we'll still be here. Thank you, Alisa, for joining us. Sharing. I think she's running away. Oh no, wait, she's getting her office partner. There you go. Follow Alisa, follow Deanna, and we will see you again next Tuesday. And whatever you do, keep making comics. Good night, everybody.